Long before I'd planned this trip, I knew that there was one place that I needed to go. And I say need, not want. A huge factor in the moving around I did wasn't just my dad moving away. It was also the abusive relationship I was in. My boyfriend took me to a place back then, tucked in the trees of an abandoned property. It was a childhood place for him, and he'd spent years playing elaborate games in the abandoned buildings there in the woods. It's really hard to say what the first indication was just how different this place would be.
Do you think that they might be trying to develop it?
Whether it was the private property sign that was up at the trailhead walking in, or the first clearing that had been paved down to dirt as we walked in. What used to be grass and dandelions paved down to dust.
Definitely wasn't like that.
It's really hard to say. It was at that point that I knew it wasn't going to be the same.
A bunch of deer in the river, we just freaked the fuck out. It's a weird noise.
He only ever referred to this as his kingdom, which I think speaks volumes to his need to own things, to be in charge of things, and to rule over things. He saw people this way too, and I was definitely one of them. I think that may have been a big factor in him bringing me there.
There's no way that they're even remotely paying attention to this place. The grass is way too deep.
Huh?
The grass is way too deep. There's no way that they're paying attention to this. Like, they're not. There's no upkeep.
There was a clearing that you had to walk through first, and then a river.
Probably.
And another clearing on the other side. I remember at the time standing on top of the roof to the house that we had climbed up inside, and we looked out over the field, which was covered in snow at the time, and he shouted to nowhere that this was his land, and there was no answer. We went back in the summer before I left, and he took me to the barn, which we hadn't gone to the first time. The house burned down a couple years after I moved. We're not really sure why. Somehow I wouldn't be surprised if he had something to do with it, but then again, there was also other people that would squat there, so it's not really fair for me to say that it was him. It's just a theory.
You can't even see the shit hiding in there.
I wasn't really sure what to expect going back there. I didn't know if he would be there. I didn't know what was going to be there.
Because this stuff was probably in the house. Huh?
I knew that the house was going to be gone, but I had no idea what would have happened to the rest of it. Part of me was really worried that someone had owned the property now and that we were going to get kicked out of it for even walking around the grounds. We weren't really quite sure what to expect. Originally, the sisters had offered to come with me, but they ended up having to work. It wound up being my other friend and I again. Round 2 of our adventures into nowhere together. it worked out because he'd wanted to go to this place ever since I told him about it and was excited to see whatever was left.
That's where the house burnt down. That's where it burnt down. It's over on that corner. I was on the roof of this.
I told myself I'd come back here, and when I did, I would do something about it. I'd brought supplies with me and had a plan written out in my journal of what to do. My friend had shown me his piece of nowhere. I wanted to show him what I was about to make mine.
Holy shit. I recognize parts of it. There's chamomile. There's chamomile growing. They tore the barn down too. That's over here.
I was going to leave my mark on this place, once and for all, and I was going to enjoy every second of it.
Fucking amazing.
That was almost some images.
Oh.
That's almost some images. You could literally build an incognito little shot out of that rubble and shit. No one
That's
would
what was
ever see
going
it.
on. That's what was going on with the other buildings. Yep. The other buildings, people would go in and like, we found clothes in there. We found graffiti in there. That was the barn. That was another outbuilding over there. And that one too. That was the barn. There's trees growing through it. Well, that's coming home with me. So fucking cool. I know it's not safe to climb up on that, but like, goddamn.
I threw my stuff down, and I climbed up on top of the barn pile. I was well aware of the fact that this was probably a bad idea, but it felt like something I needed to do, and I told myself I was going to do it. So really carefully, I chose my footing, and I climbed up on top. When I made it to the top, my friend pointed out that at my feet there was a pile of small bones. Owls used to live in the barn, and I'm sure that they still roosted there occasionally, even though the barn was gone, and probably dragged their prey up there. So my guess was that it was probably some small animal that the owls had done away with. There was 4 of them. He picked one, and I picked mine. If I was going to make this place mine, then I was taking these back with me as tokens.